Hey there, pirates! Welcome aboard the Anime No Me channel. Luffy has already defeated over 1,000 enemies on his own, and now he does it with ease. In this video, I will reveal the moment this happened. I hope for your support to help our crew win, and to do so, you just need to click the thumbs up button, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel. By doing this, you will win an incredible devil fruit, so just comment which fruit you want. Guys, since the beginning of his journey, Luffy has shown an unbreakable spirit and impressive strength, capable of overcoming enemies who often seemed invincible. However, beyond his individual battles, there's something special about how he manages to face crowds and come out victorious. Luffy is not just an exceptional fighter. He is the kind of leader who inspires and challenges the impossible. On several occasions in the manga, he has shown the power to defeat dozens, hundreds, and even thousands of adversaries on his own. Perhaps this is due to the combination of his raw strength, unique abilities, and a determination that seems endless. In the Arlong Park arc, chapter 69, we have one of the first demonstrations of how Luffy can face a large group with pure confidence and skill. When he decides to free Nami from Arlong, he doesn't hesitate to charge at the Fishmen, even knowing they are physically superior to regular humans. Despite this, Luffy not only faced, but also defeated several of Arlong's subordinates, before finally confronting the leader himself. The impact of this scene is not just in the number of enemies defeated, but in the way Luffy turns what seemed like an unfavorable battle into an example of his determination to protect those he considers part of his crew. Another memorable moment is in the Skypiea arc, especially in chapter 271, where Luffy faces NL soldiers and the Shandia warriors. Here, he shows that even on unfamiliar ground and against enemies who have an advantage in the environment, he is capable of defeating multiple opponents. Perhaps the most impressive thing is how he never loses focus, even when surrounded. Luffy fights with a unique style, mixing creativity with pure power. It's as if he's saying that numbers don't matter when he's determined to win. In the Enies Lobby arc, chapter 418, we have one of Luffy's most iconic moments facing a horde of enemies, the use of his gear second. As he runs through the courthouse toward Robin, facing Marines from all sides, we witness an explosion of speed and strength. Luffy easily defeats dozens of soldiers, moving so fast that his enemies can barely react. Perhaps what stands out most here is how he combines strategy and skill to handle overwhelming numbers. He doesn't let the quantity intimidate him. Instead, he faces each opponent as an obstacle to be overcome in order to achieve his goal. Now, it's impossible not to mention the Marineford arc, chapters 568 and 569, where Luffy stands out amidst the chaos of the war. Even surrounded by powerful Marines and pirates, he advances without hesitation, knocking down enemies while trying to save Ace. Here, the use of the Conqueror's Haki begins to stand out, especially in chapter 569, when he unconsciously releases it, knocking down dozens of soldiers around him. Perhaps this moment is one of the most significant for understanding Luffy's potential. He not only has the strength to defeat many enemies, but also the presence and will to inspire allies and intimidate foes. But perhaps one of the most striking moments of Luffy facing a crowd happens in the Fishman Island arc, chapter 636. When Hody Jones gathers thousands of fishmen to face him, Luffy demonstrates what it means to be a captain willing to protect his territory. With a single use of the Conqueror's Haki, he knocks out 50,000 enemies, leaving everyone around him in shock. This may be the moment we realize the true extent of Luffy's power. He doesn't need to fight each opponent individually. His presence and will are enough to unbalance even the largest armies. These moments throughout the story show that Luffy is not only strong, he is a symbol of resilience and determination. His power to defeat thousands of enemies alone comes not just from his physical strength or special abilities, but from his will to protect those he loves and his unwavering belief in freedom. Perhaps this is what makes him so special. He doesn't fight for glory or revenge, but for a world where everyone can live free. And as long as Luffy continues to advance with this spirit, there is no crowd or army that can stop him. Now, with so many displays of power throughout the manga, it's clear that Luffy has the potential to face any challenge, no matter how many enemies are in his way. He is more than a fighter. He is a force of nature, a captain who never gives up and always finds a way to win. And maybe that's what makes him so inspiring. The idea that with determination and courage, even the impossible can be achieved. With the awakening of Gear 5, Luffy's strength has evolved to a completely new level. Perhaps now he has the potential not only to defeat thousands of regular enemies as we've seen before, but also to face tens of thousands of opponents on a battlefield, regardless of their strength or ability. This awakening transcends physical combat, altering the very nature of the reality around him, which makes me believe that that Luffy is now at a level where numbers no longer matter. In chapter 1044, when Luffy first awakens Gear 5 during his battle with Kaido, it becomes clear that he not only becomes stronger, but gains nearly unlimited freedom in how he handles the world around him. Gear 5, based on the power of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, transforms Luffy into a warrior of absolute freedom. His abilities become as flexible as his imagination, allowing him to face situations that once seemed impossible. If in the past, Luffy managed to defeat crowds with his strength, now he can do so with a mix of creativity and a nearly comical yet devastating power. Imagine a situation like the one in Fishman Island in chapter 636, where Luffy used Conqueror's Haki to knock out 50,000 fishmen in an instant. Now, with Gear 5, he wouldn't just knock out enemies with Haki, but would also use his abilities in ways that create an even more overwhelming impact. Luffy could perhaps transform the battlefield into something surreal, like turning the ground elastic, making his enemies' movements difficult, or creating giant forms of himself that would crush crowds. This ability is not just physical, it's psychological. Enemies don't just face Luffy's strength, but the weight of his presence and the distorted reality he controls. In the Wano arc, chapter 1046, during the final confrontation against Kaido, we see how Luffy completely masters the use of his Conqueror's Haki. He combines it with Gear 5, channeling this power into his attacks and taking down even the most powerful of adversaries. Now, imagine this combination used against an army of thousands. Conqueror's Haki is already devastating enough to defeat opponents with weaker wills. But in Gear 5, Luffy can amplify this to catastrophic levels. Perhaps he could release waves of Haki that not only knock out enemies, but also alter the environment around him, creating scenarios that would leave adversaries completely disoriented. If we analyze the battle against Kaido as a microcosm of what Luffy is capable of in Gear 5, it becomes clear that he can face an army of 10,000 enemies or more with relative ease. Perhaps he wouldn't even need to touch each opponent individually. With his ability to manipulate reality, Luffy could create long-range attacks that sweep dozens of enemies at once. Maybe he could transform his fist into something as large as an island, crushing entire groups with a single blow. Additionally, Luffy's joyful and unpredictable personality in Gear 5 is perhaps his greatest weapon. The enemies aren't just facing a powerful opponent, they're facing someone who seems immune to fear and defeat. This unpredictability is something that destabilizes any adversary. Even Kaido, one of the most powerful characters in One Piece, was visibly shaken upon realizing that Luffy was not only laughing in the midst of battle, but also turning the fight into something that seemed like a joke. Against an army, this attitude could be even more devastating. Perhaps Luffy would make his enemies question their own strength, or even lose the will to fight before being defeated. Gear 5 also grants Luffy a level of resilience that makes him practically unstoppable in battle. In chapter 1045, we see how he recovers from devastating attacks from Kaido, coming back even stronger. Perhaps this means that even when facing powerful enemies in large numbers, Luffy could continue fighting long enough to defeat them all. His energy seems inexhaustible, and his ability to adapt to any situation makes it nearly impossible to defeat him. With Gear 5, Luffy transcends the concept of pure strength. He becomes a force of nature, someone who cannot be stopped by numbers or conventional strategies. Perhaps he could face 100,000 enemies, manipulating the battlefield to make it favorable to him, using his creativity to create attacks that sweep entire crowds, and combining all of this with his Conqueror's Haki to knock out the weaker opponents before the fight even begins. In the end, Gear 5 is more than just a power boost. It is the embodiment of the freedom that Luffy values so much. He doesn't fight just to win, he fights to show that nothing can restrain his will or limit his dreams. Perhaps it is this freedom that makes Luffy not just a captain, but a symbol. And as long as he has this spirit, no matter how many enemies are in his way, Luffy will always find a way to win. That was today's content. We hope you liked it and want to share your opinion on the subject. Don't forget to share the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay amazing.